What you're looking at is a reel-to-reel tape, and it was recorded on an old tape recorder, a Webcor, which was from Chicago. And my dad, when he first got married, my mother used to let him buy electronic items. And he bought this tape recorder in like 1955. And he would record music down in the cellar and put it on the tapes and then play it back. And then right after he bought it, they come out with the stereo unit. So it was kind of obsolete when he bought it. But he took it one time over to my mother's relatives too. They called it the bungalow. It was a real ratty uh, building, and my grandmother and grandfather lived in it after their children had left. And everybody would gather over there. And in this case, it was at Easter. I figured out it was probably 1957. And they would all get drunk and they would sing and take turns singing. And my dad decided to take his tape recorder over there and to record it. So what you have is a tape of the children coming up and singing a little song or saying a poem, and then the my aunts and uncles together singing songs together. You know, they're drunk, and this is what I used to experience. And I did not fit in. I wasn't a drinker. I didn't ever want to be one. They were all heavy smokers. I didn't even want to be a heavy smoker. They would have parties inside somebody's house. The smoke was so incredibly thick, your eyes would burn. And as growing up as a kid, they would talk to me and tell me all the things they were going to do. And I realized this, I think when I moved out here, that I only talk about what I'm working on. I never talk about, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I talk about reality, the moment. What am I working on? What did I just finish? Okay? What am I going to do next week? I have actual plans. I'm going to do it. That's how I talk. Okay? Other people, they're going to get a boat. My father used to say he's going to get a houseboat on a lake, and for the summer he's going to drive around. Never happened. He's going to walk across the United States. Never happened. Okay? There was a whole bunch of this stuff. He would actually say, and he actually would get mad at you if you said to him, I don't think you're going to do that. He'd get mad. He'd double down and get really mad. And like I said, I would only talk about what I was doing. So in this case, this tape existed. My parents were dead. And I knew this tape existed. My father, when my grandfather first died, he made sure that he took my grandfather off this tape. So my grandfather's just died. My mother's upstairs cooking. And my mother keeps talking down to my father. Did you find it yet? Did you find it yet? And he's going through his tapes now. He finds this tape, and he puts on the section where my grandfather's on. It was on the back section. He did a whole one side. You flip it over to do the other track, and he realized it was just a drunken rant. So he took the tape and he snapped it, and he gave me the section, and I'm playing with it. And then he went up to my mother and he says, tape's no good. I took a piece off of the tape and gave it to Johnny to play with. And I didn't realize that was your fault. He did it on purpose, okay? And my mother couldn't prove anything. But the rest of the tape remained. He put it away. And I knew the tape had existed because I heard him going through the tape and playing my cousins singing. And I recognized their voices. So this tape got put away. So my father dies. And I'm cleaning the house out, and I come upon the tapes, all the tapes. And I start going through them because I know this tape exists. So anyway, I find it, and I play it. It's exactly the way I remembered it. So it wasn't good on that tape recorder. And I had taken the tape recorder apart out on the side of the house, cleaned all the parts. Someone had spilt a beer down in it, cleaned it all up. And when I went to play it, I realized my father had put so many hours on the tape head that it wasn't any good. So I went through my box of junk and I found a brand new 8-track player head, which is quite large. It was the same size, side by side, as the now I'm going to Webcor tape recorder. It had two heads, but one was for one direction, You flip the tape over. Well, anyway, I put the head in there, and I realized the amplifier of the web core needs to be recapped. And I'm like, you know what? Let me just come off with shielded wire into my cassette recorder. So I did that. And the cassette recorder had automatic volume control. And I ran a section, and it was crystal clear. I'm like, this is incredible. So I took a really good, high-quality cassette tape. I put it in the recorder, in my, cassette recorder, and I put it on record, and I took this whole tape here and put it on a cassette on one side. So anyway, or maybe it might have took two sides. Well, anyway, got it on there, made like a master tape, and I played it a few times. I put it away in the drawer, and I said, you know what? I got to send this to one of my aunts. So I'm coming up the street a few months later, and this neighbor who kept in touch with my mother's family comes running out. Oh, your Uncle Artie died. Uncle Artie died. And I'm like, oh, brother. And my mom had died, and then Uncle Artie, and I'm like, you know what? The tape. I screwed up. I wanted to get the tape to the family sooner, but forgot about it. And Uncle Artie's on the tape. So I mailed the tape to my aunt. It come down. She got the tape right around Christmas morning, or she got it Christmas morning, day before Christmas, and they went to a Radio Shack the night before. And oh, I know what it was. They had a cassette player in the car. So Christmas morning, she talked her husband into going out there and trying to get the tape to play. So they're sitting in the car playing the tape, and it's referred to as the tape. That's what they called it, the tape. Now I called it the Rock and Roberts tape, but the tape. So my aunt's listening to it, and she starts bawling her eyes out because she's now singing with her cousin, my mother, her other brothers, and some of these people they're already starting to die. So she calls me up Christmas morning. I get the phone ring. I go, hello, and I hear, and I'm like, well, I'll hang on a little longer, and then I'm going to hang up. And then finally, my aunt said her name, and she said, thank you for the tape. It's like one of the best gifts I ever got. So I didn't realize. I said, oh, you're welcome, the whole thing. And then she sends me a letter a week later thanking me again. And in the letter, it mentions her son took the tape to work, and somebody made multiple copies of the tape. And they mailed it to all my relatives. Now, I did not really keep in touch with my relatives. I had mostly female cousins. And the male cousins I had that were 3 years older than me or 3 years younger than me, all the females, or a bunch of females, were my age. So I really didn't keep in touch with my cousins. All right? And if I did have any contact with them, they wanted something fixed. So suddenly I start getting all these calls on the phone, and people are crying, and they're thanking me, and I'm getting letters from people, and I'm answering letters, and I started writing back and forth with a couple of relatives. And then there was going to be a 50th wedding anniversary with one of them, and they're having so I went to that, and everybody kept coming up and thanking me, and people on the way to the reunion or the wedding were actually playing the tape in the car to get there, and they come up to me and they thanked me, and a few of them said no one has ever done anything like that. And I realized that because my father had recorded the tape and to give him something to do when he was at the party, because all they did was drink and smoke and talk about things they were going to do that they never did. Okay, and I didn't fit in. I really didn't fit in at any of that stuff. And they'd come up to me and talk to me, and they'd make stuff up. I guess you're going to do this. I said, no, I want to go into electronics. And at that time, electronics was a radio or television, okay? Aerospace, none of them had a clue, okay? That's why no matter what I worked on, they all thought I fixed radios and televisions, which was really annoying, like I told you, my grandmother would always say, you can build a radio out of a Quaker Oats box. That's as far as the electronic knowledge went in the family until 8-track players came out, and then they would bring them to me, and then they wouldn't pay me for fixing them. But this is more than a keepsake, but this is going in the garbage. The master tapes out there, that those people are in charge of the recording and let them pass it on. But the people that are on this tape are no longer alive. The children of the people, some of those are still alive. Some of those have died. Okay? And, it's time to let it go. Time for the landfill. But I just want to tell you, I'm not the type of person that's family oriented, and yet I came through for them. I'd say in a big way because, the children were able to hear their parents when they were younger singing. They could actually hear themselves singing when they were younger. And I did have one case where in the neighborhood a guy had taken movies of the children in the neighborhood. We had a block party, and I could not secure those tapes. The one guy held those tapes over my head to get shit done from me, and then he came to me and claimed they were no longer existed. I know those movies existed because I was at basically a party with one of the neighbors, and they played those movies again, and I knew just what I was going to see. And then I said something, and then, they've been passed to this guy or they've been passed to that guy. And they even had movies from a guy that lived on our neighborhood that took movies, and when he left, he handed them over to someone else to pass them on. Well, the one person that got a hold of them didn't pass them on, okay? But that's the way stuff goes. But I just want to tell you about the tape. That's what they actually called it, the tape. And they referred to it as the tape. They would call me up, how you doing? I still love the tape. I still play it. The one woman, whenever she played the tape, her daughter could hear it. She lived downstairs, and they'd come up and sit there and drink and cry listening to the tape. But, my dad sort of did it being a nice guy, and then he didn't realize he had my grandfather ranting drunk. And he knew that if he didn't destroy that part of the tape, that my mother would keep playing that over and over and over to hear her father's voice, because she had a real fixation with her father. Oh, the stuff I've got in my head, the stuff I went through, the stuff you probably have in your head, the stuff you went through. I think that's it. All right, that's it.